All right, let's move on to industrial. Now you're going to have some similar impacts with humans, right? So you're going to have the humans. Sorry. Humans there with the trash, and stuff with the cars. But you're also going to have chemicals. These industrial areas, you're going to have a lot of chemicals, way more potential impact from that than you would in a residential area. Just all sorts of things that, and not only different chemicals, but just the sheer volume of potential, spillage of chemicals that can then make their way into the water system. And I'll give you a case study in a minute. Some of you might remember that nasty rotten egg smell from a while back. So let's see, humans, trash, cars, and then the chemicals. You're going to have a lot of truck traffic coming in and out, bringing raw materials. And, finished products. And, trucks run on diesel, which it has more atmospheric fallout, more particulates than cars. So you're just going to eat, the residue from brake residue we mentioned before, tires. We did mention that before, but let's go ahead and add that, tire residue as well as the brake. Why not throw in there, coolant, engine coolant, antifreeze. Those are all consequences of any kind of transportation, whether it's cars or trucks. Now, public facilities, that would be things like, schools, where we're in right now, or we will be. Schools, libraries, universities, City Hall. And again, just a lot of humans coming together. And then the trash that accompanies the humans and the transportation impacts. Just need to get that to look decent. Now, if everybody rode their bike, things would look a little bit different, right? But usually public facilities, have the transportation. You're not going to have a whole lot of chemicals. You're not going to see in a normal, residential area. Oops, well, I kind of jumped the gun on that. Or educational institutions. Let's just write that down. Schools, libraries, universities. Public facilities. Let me just revise that. Like wastewater treatment. We'll say the plant yards where you have all city services, the gas company. City services like trash removal, those yards that where those trucks rest. Cities, so we'll just put that under city services. Should add up police stations, fire stations. Churches tend to get lumped in with that. Oh, hospitals. Yes, hospitals. And again, similar impacts that we mentioned before, which is people, the trash that's associated, and transportation. Military, similar thing, but with people and trash, but there's often a lot more equipment. There's more like diesel powered tanks and trucks, say vehicles, and it has a bigger impact. And one thing we don't have is an airport close to here, military airports. So military, airfields, I guess is what they're called more accurately. And planes taking off. There's a lot of exhaust that falls out of the sky and can get on the ground and wash. Of course, the tires and any other fuel. Things like bombs, missiles. Those have propellants and a lot of dangerous chemicals involved with them. Bombs, propellants. All those different chemicals you might get in a military application for these weapons of war can be more damaging than the kind that you're going to see in a residential situation. Now, transportation, those are roads, side streets, freeways. Say side. Is that two words? Two words. Side streets, freeways, arteries, and those impacts clearly going to be mostly impacts from vehicle exhaust, fallout from exhaust, oil, and brake dust. Pollution from car. Well, let's write out oils, tire residue. That all is going to be on the roadway. Mixed urban. That would be combining residential and commercial together. The current trend, to have storefronts down below and then apartments above. That would be mixed urban, which you combine the drawbacks of a high density residential and a commercial. But again, it's not. There's ways we manage that stuff. So open space. This would just be like natural lands, basically. So, looking at, fields, forests, wetlands, shrubs, shrubland. And this can help help water quality, right? With no people, you're not going to be having, or very few, going to have few inputs. So definitely write in your notes, help water quality. And especially if there's wetlands there, this helps to purify water. And you have lots of infiltration. Hopefully you can fit this in on the side of yours where I can't. Infiltration, that can really help the groundwater. And that's something huge that we need to focus on, is keeping our groundwater as strong and healthy as we can. We rely on it heavily here in Long Beach. Oh, I've been looking for these sunglasses. Yeah. I don't know. I have a really, really hard time keeping track of sunglasses. Goodness. Huh. Anyway, agriculture now. The big difference we have in agriculture is different from most things. You're going to have a lot more pesticides, herbicides, and the big one is fertilizers. These are all, I mentioned them before, except the fertilizers I should have for residential. But here you have massive amounts of these. And these can have a really devastating impact on water quality. The Gulf of Mexico is just hammered every year because of all the crops, all the agriculture that goes on in our Midwest, and it gets washed in the Mississippi River. And all those chemicals go into the Gulf of Mexico and really wreak havoc on those natural systems. And I just want to put that right here. Mississippi River. Yeah. I was getting impatient. Down to the Gulf of Mexico. Whole areas of the Gulf of Mexico get killed off every year because of this flood of nutrients. It's a real problem. And there's another issue with erosion and creating silt, right? Dirt washes off the farmland, and then that silt makes the water cloudy. It affects the plants growing there, and that silt carries lots of nutrients. Now, water, these are rivers, lakes, and streams. And they help, there is cleansing that happens. There's a natural cleaning process that happens inside. There's natural bacteria. The bottom of rivers that help to, break down pollutants and nasty stuff, as long as, not too much is put in at once. Snake River is an example of that. Up in the Northwest, where normally, it's a fairly clean ecosystem, but with all of the dairy farms along it, put a lot of cow poop into the water. Yet there's still cleaning that happens in those waters, where bacteria will break down the nutrients and make the water a little bit cleaner. But really, water does not really have a big impact. Recreation, as far as land use, the biggest one I can think of would be golf courses. You've probably seen golf courses. They take a huge amount of land. And the issue is they had to put a lot of, chemicals on there, fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides. So it's a similar situation to agriculture in a lot of ways. Fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides. So that's a big issue. So yeah, golf courses, parks, okay, in general. I gotta add that too. Where else we recreate? Stadiums, I guess. Parks, stadiums, golf courses. I guess, I don't know, you want to call Knott's Berry Farm, and Six Flags. That would be commercial or recreational use? Commercial, I think. So recreation. But also the positive thing with that, you're going to get a lot of infiltration, right? Because you're going to want to have at your golf course, at your park, you want to limit the amount of hardscape and paved over areas, concrete, asphalt. So infiltration has helped, which is good. Remember, infiltration of any water that hits the ground, that's what we want, so it can sink down and get purified. All right, so that's a good that's a rundown of all the different types of land use. Next, in part 3, we'll talk about a case study that you may have personal experience with.